Hello, I'm Rory Smith in the GB newsroom. A 23-year-old person claims the BBC presenter at the centre of allegations broke COVID lockdown rules to meet them during the pandemic. The Sun reports the young person says the star travelled across London to another county to meet them at their flat in February 2021 when coronavirus lockdown rules were in place. It comes as the presenter is already facing allegations of paying a teenager for sexually explicit photos and sending threatening messages to a young person in their early 20s. BBC presenter Jeremy Vine has put pressure on his unnamed colleague, suggesting it may be time for him to go public. Well, separately, the BBC has published details of its highest paid stars as part of its annual report. Gary Lineker remains the corporation's top-paid presenter, taking home more than £1.35 million. Zoe Ball is the highest-paid female presenter, earning more than £980,000. A 15-year-old boy has been charged with attempted wounding with intent and possession of a bladed article after a teacher was stabbed in Gloucester yesterday. The male teacher, who was injured in Tewkesbury Academy, was discharged from hospital yesterday evening. Police say they do not believe it was terror-related. The boy will remain in custody tonight before appearing in court tomorrow. The UK has announced a new wave of support packages for Ukraine. It includes £50 million to fix equipment and plans to deliver more than 70 combat and logistics vehicles to the country. Thousands of additional rounds of Challenger 2 ammunition will also be immediately sent. It comes as G7 countries have jointly signed a long-term security arrangement with Ukraine, aiming to restore peace to Europe. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says the package will send a strong signal to President Putin. A Romanian people smuggler has been jailed for 12 years and 7 months for the manslaughter of 39 Vietnamese migrants in 2019. 50-year-old Marius Dragici fled the country after the bodies of migrants were discovered in a container. They were being transported from Belgium to Essex by ferry. The High Court judge described Dragici as the organisers' right-hand man. A large fire has broken out at an industrial estate in Hertfordshire. Fire crews are currently at the scene on the Baldock Industrial Estate in London Road. Road closures are in place. Residents have been told to keep their windows closed as firefighters continue to tackle the blaze. TV, online, DAB+ radio and on TuneIn. This is GB News. Now though, time for headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Simon Evans. Joining me tonight to snuggle up with Wednesday's papers, two of the cuddliest comedians on the comedy circuit. We have Leo Kearse and Steve N. Allen. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello. That's like a pickup line firstly I've uttered there, isn't it? I mean, they just lead me into this stuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure, being on TV, I want to be referred to as cuddly right at this moment.
I don't think you are cuddly at all, although you've lowered your height in order to make that possibly more viable. You look a little bit shorter than Steve.
Oh, yeah. Maybe I'll put my seat up.
Yeah, be a bit more alpha.
Your height is mainly leg, isn't it?
That's better.
Yeah, just my torso is a foot.
This is like primarily an online singles bar, isn't it? The Headliners thing. So you've got to make sure your initial impact is powerful. Anyway, let's take a look at Wednesday's front pages. We have The Times. That's an unfortunate first headline, given the tack I was just using there. Dating app user was sent abuse by BBC star, and a picture of Zelensky and Mrs. The Guardian, no extra cash for pay in the public sector, warns Hunt. The Financial Times has Kyiv bridles at absurd delay. The Sun, BBC star, broke lockdown to meet another young stranger. Is there no end to his calumny? And Daily Mail, Chinese spy at the heart of Parliament. That isn't that spy picture, that's Mrs. Johnson and the new Johnson edition. Daily Star, Klingon, Star Trek-style spaceship could cut flight to Mars to just 30 days. Those were your front pages. So our first paper is The Times, Leo.
So that's the ongoing saga of this mystery, well, not that mysterious, BBC presenter who has been up to some sort of shenanigans or been accused of being up to some sort of shenanigans with young boys, young men. So there's a new allegation, and this one includes sending abuse. So this individual who's in their early 20s, has told the news that when they were first contacted anonymously by this high-profile male presenter via a dating app, they were pressured to meet up but declined and were threatened with a number of abusive, expletive-filled messages.
There's a missing link there in the story that I've heard, is that they declined to meet up and then suggested to the high-profile BBC presenter that they might reveal his presence on the dating app to the wider world. So he was threatened with exposure, with doxing or whatever you want to call it, which obviously would be humiliating, and that's the point at which he started. I think that's quite an important. He didn't just start abusing random strangers on the line. He kind of got angry when he was.
He waits until he's slightly goaded before he unleashes abuse on young men. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I don't think. And I've heard a lot of people saying, "Oh, but he's no criminal. Oh, if they're like over the age of 16, it's like it doesn't. You can't just turn up at a 16-year-old's birthday party, like shove his birthday cake out the way and like, right, we're getting down to it. If you're, some sort of 70-year-old BBC presenter, there's got to be some.
We
sort
don't
of
know that he's 70. We have no idea who it might be at all. But I don't know.
I plucked that number from.
What do you think, Steve?
For a bit of balance, the abusive messages were sent to someone in their early 20s.
Yeah.
And if that person were in their early 20s and had blue hair, you'd be so offensive to them. If you got their number, you'd definitely send messages about something to do with oil.
Unless it was a blue rinse.
Yeah, well, a little bit older than not the 1920s. I mean, this is the newspapers doing their second go-round at this, isn't it? Because this story wouldn't have been a story.
No.
Because the original story now has some question marks on it. This is more trying to add to the character of the...
It's like the story has made it up past the halfway line, and it's waiting for the midfield to catch up, basically, at this point, isn't it?
But this, I mean, a second police force, I mean, the Met were contacted more recently, but this relates to a second police force that were contacted 3 months ago. So this does give credibility to the initial claims, which were starting to get ridiculed in some parts of the press, possibly pushed by the BBC's PR machine. I'm not claiming that, but you know, it's a possibility.
We don't know.
It wouldn't be the first time it had happened. Wouldn't be the first time they closed ranks to protect some sort of dodgy, nefarious, predatory male in their ranks.
That does seem to be the indication, doesn't it? But we, as members of a TV station, should be very careful that we aren't all tarred with the same brush. What do you think about this Anthropocene thing, Steve?
Oh, this is humanity's handiwork pushing the Earth into a new epoch. As much as this ordinarily would be the kind of story that's right up my street, I don't really spend a lot of time thinking about the names of epochs. So you can move from the Holocene to the...
Furry epochs. Was it the furry epochs in Return of the Jedi?
Ewoks.
Oh, they were Ewoks. Sorry, yeah. They're not the Anthropocene epochs.
Can we talk about the BBC presenter again?
No, we can't. We've moved on from that. Sorry. What about it though? Is it like an indication that we've irreversibly changed the nature of the Earth and its surface? Because that seems to be the argument.
Yes, we've at least changed it. I mean, irreversibly, I suppose, doesn't have to be in there in the long term. If we're talking about epochs, it's very difficult to predict the next one. So I'm not sure how much that will be taken into account. But maybe we have. I mean, we have impacted the planet, certainly, by taking stuff that used to be forest and slapping some concrete down. It's definitely different.
Yes.
It looks different from space now, so maybe it is right to name
98% of biomass, of mammalian biomass, is herd, I believe, now as well. Like our
Well, it's
herd,
quite loud.
you know.
So-
Yeah.
You heard it here first. 95% of mammalian biomass is herd. Can we get back to the BBC presenter, please?
Come on,
Don't
just
worry,
write
look
a
at the
blog
next-
about it. That's furiously sweating. Well, you've got The Sun, which have gone on the same story. So let's get back to that then. You kick off, Steve.
BBC star broke lockdown to meet another young stranger. This is a meeting. It looks like two people meeting rather than having a party for a birthday in a government. I don't know, something like that. So it seems to be, in some way, it's The Sun doing what they're doing on this story. And this is, I'm going to try and say this without passing judgment on it, but there are some areas of the media that have an issue with the BBC, and quite rightly, because the BBC skews the commercial playing field.
Yeah.
It takes so much money away from commercial operators. I used to work in commercial radio, and it was our biggest complaint. And now The Sun's got the BBC on the ropes. Without knowing the name of the person,
Yes.
we are all talking about it. We don't need to know the name to double down on going, yeah, the BBC. There are people here who've been saying, what was the quote from Lee Anderson? The BBC is a safe haven for perverts, and the licence fee should be scrapped and it should become pay a subscription service. I'm not sure why you need to subscribe to a pervert haven. I'm not sure whether that's the business model. But
Well,
this
it's,
is
I
all
mean,
about
even
tax.
Jeremy Vine, BBC, I think you could say an employee, certainly, you know, one of their
yes,
highest earning freelancers, if not. He said he thinks the individual under scrutiny should step forward himself in order to prevent the BBC being, again, tarnished with the entire... I mean, this is kind of what
I
I'm
think
saying.
the BBC is pretty much tarnished. I mean,
Yeah.
come on, Savile, Harris, Westwood. I mean, the names. It's a conveyor belt. The
Well, I
BBC
would
is a
say
factory
Savile-
for predatory males.
It is fairly obvious that people were looking the other way, like with extraordinary commitment for
Yeah.
years on Savile. I don't think that's been demonstrated here. This is more like somebody's private shame, isn't it, at the moment? Wouldn't you say?
I mean, we don't know. We don't know. But I mean, I love how the Sun's gone for the lockdown angle. It's like, you know, predatory males are bad, but this one also broke lockdown. You know what I mean? It's like, I think with Savile's catalogue of abuses,
Yeah.
breaking lockdown wouldn't have been.
It would have
much
been
of a-
interesting to see how he would have reacted during lockdown. I bet he would have found an angle on that. What else have we got, by the way?
Just before we move from this paper,
Yeah.
can we not all feel sorry for people who pose for stock images of silhouettes?
Yes.
Who are now forever being tied to these stories?
He assumed that picture would be used to demonstrate he was going to go it alone and start a new business or something.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah.
Business chatting up young people online.
Middle-aged pedo on mobile. Anyway, go on, what do we got? The Guardian next? Have we done that yet?
So the Guardian has no extra cash for pay in the public sector, warns Hunt. So he's told ministers there will be no extra money to give millions of public sector workers an average 6% pay rise, potentially leaving departments facing a difficult choice between raising salaries or cutting frontline services. Just cut frontline services. I mean, what you could honestly, you could walk into any council in the UK and just walk around, you know, fire maybe 3/4 of the workforce. I don't think anybody would notice, apart from there be fewer people getting in their way and writing them tickets for bylaws that probably don't even exist. And also, we're looking. I mean, the unions are saying no. We need to have a pay rise because you know, there's inflation. But we're actually seeing deflation now. The factory gate prices in China are dropping, so that means the stuff we're buying is going to get cheaper. So
That's Chinese consumer products, which are not insignificant, but we also have food, we also have fuel, we also have housing costs. Those are still going up.
no, I mean they're starting to come down. But fuel is
Fuel has come down, actually, that's true, yeah. Food prices, I think, are still... The rate of increase has slowed down. But, yeah, I mean, flat-screen TVs and that sort of thing, yes, of course, absolutely. And they perk you up, you know, if you're feeling low.
When you're
a
hungry.
new 50-incher,
Yeah.
but...
Watch the TV and see adverts.
That's what that BBC presenter said.
I think we've probably... Oh, we got the Mail, have we? Have we done that yet?
Yeah, I can do this one quickly
Go
for you. Chinese spy at the heart of Parliament terror. They should make a film about this. It's really upsetting. A Chinese spy was sent to infiltrate the House of Commons by trying to get into a meeting that was appointment only. They gave a name and then wouldn't say who they were there with.
ridiculous.
Bad spying, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
this is spying. Hello, can I come in? No? All right, then.
Reminds me of the spying I did when I worked for a BBC Two satire show in the late 90s. Got drunk in a House of Commons bar and forgot I was supposed to be undercover. It's easily done. Should we just give a quick shout-out to Frank Alfred Odysseus Johnson?
The latest Johnson.
Why is it Odysseus? Honestly, that's...
I do have a theory.
just-
We were talking about my theory is that the more rich and powerful you are, the more stupid a name you give to your children.
Yes.
It's a way of goading society to try and bully them, because you will smack down on it. Rich, famous musicians always call their kids stupid
Yeah,
things.
but the poorest people also give their kids names like
We were saying
Nike
this
or Mercedes.
as well. It's
don't
like
they?
that curve, you know, the
Yes,
sort of
yes,
midwit with the, you know, the stupid people and the rich people have the same opinions for completely different reasons.
It's
the
a
same
very,
thing.
very cheap Satan
Yeah.
symbol, yeah.
You've got your Kylie's on one end and your Odysseus, he's on the other side.
Well, we wish him well on his long journey. That's Wednesday's pages all put to bed. Come back, Wednesday's front pages, I should say. Come back in a moment for new housemates, The Running Man, and global warming goes underground. We'll see you in a couple of minutes. And welcome back to Headliners with myself, Simon Evans. And if the strap at the bottom of this screen is correct, Leo Kearse and Steve N. Allen. Interesting way to put it. Anyway, Leo, Wednesday's Telegraph to kick us off. And a modest proposal from Policy Exchange. I think Jonathan Swift would have been proud of this.
So Britons should open their homes to asylum seekers to help reduce the $2.2 billion annual cost of housing them in hotels, according to a report backed by former Cabinet Minister Brandon Lewis. So at the moment, they get dumped on in hotels, wherever the government can find space for them, on military bases, or quite often in poor communities, because that's where housing is cheaper and more available. So they get put there, you know.
And communities are less well organised.
Yeah, and less, you know, have less of a voice. They've got less empowerment. They can't phone up their local MP and say, I mean, they could, but you know, they don't have that sort of political power to say, don't, you know, dump these people in my community. And I think it's really unfair because, you know, there are so many people who demand that we have open borders. We've got NGOs, human rights lawyers, Labour politicians, and the whole, you know, Guardian reading chatterati demanding that we have these people come here. Quite often they're not the, you know, most desirable people who'd get through in a points-based system, and they're dumped on communities who haven't asked for them. So why don't we just get a bunch of shipping containers, turn them into porta-cabins or whatever, and put them in Islington and all the places and all the leafy suburbs where the people who have demanded them live? Because I mean, they're saying we should do a system like Ukraine, but Ukraine was culturally similar.
So he's talking about people with spare rooms? Is he basically making them available to just random refugees?
Yeah.
From anywhere, with any degree of English, with any degree of ability to integrate into the family.
Yeah, so somebody who's recently been fighting with the Janjaweed militia can now come and bunk with your team.
And I do remember, I mean, I suppose it was probably 2012, was it, when the Syrian civil war first broke out, and there was a refugee crisis then, and quite a lot of people in Brighton and Hove, there was conversation about should one make one spare room available. And I remember my wife looking into it before I found out, and but she was thankfully put off by the fact that you couldn't put a cap on it. You couldn't say you can have it for 6 months, you know, tide you over. Once they were in, there was a sort of long-term commitment as well. I don't know whether this is the thing here. I think a lot of people thought with the Ukraine thing, you know, do the Gary Lineker, you know, have them for a long weekend. You know, a couple of photo opportunities, and then they're smuggled out the back. And, you know, one night they wake up in the middle of, as you say, a shipping container.
I mean, this can't be real. Like, it can't be a genuine suggestion at all. Surely it's just a suggestion to become a headline so that they can focus our attention again at the numbers, which I think are bad. So it's £2.2 billion, the cost of the hotels.
Yes.
In part, that's because of the backlog, but £2.2 billion, that's more than the £2.1 billion set aside for levelling up. How about a scheme where we put a northerner in a spare room?
Yes.
Because, I mean, I'm up for it. I'm from the Midlands, and I'd every so often need a good kip somewhere. So
or possibly use the refugees to level up. Yes. I mean, I don't know exactly how it works physically as infrastructure, but...
no one knows what levelling up is.
Could we make them turn them into HS2 or something? Build tunnels out of them.
How fast can you run to Birmingham?
I don't know. It does sound, it is farcical, but as you say, it's drawn attention to the crisis. The Guardian next and the ECHR have a ruling on whether Caster's a man,
A European court rules that Caster Semenya human rights were violated. The ECHR, I wonder how many people have just spat at their TV. It's interesting, isn't it? Ruled that... Now, this is the thing, actually. The story is not about whether Caster is a man or not, or any of it. It's a really boring story about whether the sufficient legal opportunity to have the case reviewed was given by the Swiss courts. The ECHR say not. So that's kind of the dull part out of the way.
It's a legal technicality, really, a tiny part of the whole thing.
And so the rights were violated, and it is the human rights that they're looking into, were violated by the way in which this case has been looked at. And so it's all to do with DSD, this difference in sex development, which means that the people in charge of the running, I'm not a sports expert, put a cap on the amount of testosterone.
But it's interesting the way it's reported. It's always reported in this way. She has a condition, they say. She has a condition. So it's as if she, that's like the strong, unqualified pronoun that indicates she is a woman who has a condition. The condition she has includes XY chromosomes and definitely undescended testes, which are what are producing the vast amounts of testosterone. It's not like she is a female athlete who has a condition which has elevated her testosterone. She has the chromosomes which you associate. Basically, it would be much more accurate in terms of most people's understanding if you would say he has an outwardly appearing female genitalia. but in fact has all of the male genitalia.
This sounds like an argument you're having outside a brothel.
No, yeah. But this is the thing that I find, you know, it's extraordinarily disingenuous, the way it's reported in the press. Obviously intended to maintain sympathy for her and not for any of the women who were beaten by her in races.
But I don't know. I mean, I think, you know, we've got biological males being celebrated and encouraged to compete in you know, any female sport. And Caster Semenya, who, you know, regardless of whatever,
Thought
you know,
she was a woman.
Magic you're talking about, chromosomes, whatever they are, you know, she's got, you know, external women stuff.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that counts for something.
No, she shouldn't. It's an entirely different conversation to trans, as far as I'm concerned. And that is one of the annoying things that it has run concurrently.
But I think you know, athletes are exceptional. They are physically exceptional. And some of that exceptionalness can include undescended testes. That's
fair enough. Well, it's a point of view. Leo.
Is that hyphenated?
Leo over.
Am I Irish?
It's a Leuva. You sound like an organic washing detergent or something. Leuva.
Just make your clothes dirty.
Wednesday's Mirror, who are unsurprisingly keen to see the poshos get a well-deserved bagging and no tuck.
Yeah, so economists debunk Tory claim that axing private school tax breaks would lead to exodus. So previously there have been warnings that Labour want to stop the tax breaks on private schools. I love it they say it's a tax break. Oh, we don't steal so much of your money, and that's a break. Oh, we're giving you a real break. No, it's like, you know, they don't tax private schools as much or at all.
There's no VAT. They have charitable status, and I think they get some quite substantial, if you regard them as commercial organisations, then that by those standards they get some fairly good business rates on their premises.
But it makes sense because they relieve the burden on the state.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
and the people who send their kids to private school pay their tax and pay an awful lot of tax in most cases because they tend to be rich, and so they're subsidising everybody else's kids getting taught, and they're paying for a place for their own kid.
And then they're being penalised when those kids go to university because they go, oh, you're privately educated, you need 5 triple-star A's to get in, you know.
Absolutely. Basically ending that tax break the Labour Party have said it would raise like £1.5 billion.
And this think tank agrees.
This think tank agrees. They say, oh, not very many people would pull their kids out of school if it became more expensive because of the tax breaks ending. But actually, a survey by the Independent Schools Council revealed that 60% would probably or definitely remove their kids from private school.
Or at least one of the three. You'd probably weigh up which one's not going to make it. You've got to think about it.
It's only back the right horse here. But that would actually end up costing the state £4 billion because, you know, then the state would have to pay to educate those kids.
And all that will happen is, because it's already happening on a vast scale, is those places will go to overseas kids, which, you know, maybe that's what they want to turn it in, the private education sector, into an export business, essentially. We already have an awful lot of kids, especially from East Asia, who are coming to British private independent public schools because they have a wonderful reputation worldwide. And it is becoming very much more, that's the kind of demographic that you see now. I don't know whether that's a good future or not.
Well, I mean, you're quoting a survey, they're quoting a survey. Basically, it's just we don't know how much this exodus would be and how much it would cost. But actually, you've got to go quite in there to use up all of this 1.5 billion that they'd raise. If your argument is purely about money, there's something worth looking into this. There's another thing as well, which I think would happen. If you get these posh parents having their kids go to a state school with their sharp elbows and their ability to complain, you'd probably see an increase in the standards of teaching.
I think that's a very important part. I genuinely believe in that, and I think that's the one thing that's overlooked an awful lot of the time. The other thing that's overlooked is the obvious solution is to do a voucher system where every kid you get £5,000. You can either spend that and get them basically a free place at a state school, or you put it towards their private school fees, because it costs £5,000 a year to educate. It varies as they go through. That would make the obvious, wouldn't it? But so then it would even out.
With those 3 kids, the one that's not going to make it, no money spent on that one.
Telegraph now, quickly before the break, Steve, and the radical suggestion that what might improve privatised rail networks would be competition.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? Rail fares could be halved under plans to let more firms compete. Why was this not brought in before? It's this open access operators who don't take government subsidies, our money, and they compete with current providers. The only reason to privatise is for competition, to bring about all those efficiencies. And it was always possible, but they weren't doing it. In Europe, it's brought down fares by 60%. Why on earth? Who's been behind this? Big train money has been silencing these other...
Well, it's the French, isn't it? Don't they own it all? I think the French own most of our networks, don't they?
I knew it.
There is something really weirdly, badly wrong about privatising rail and then not opening it up to competition, though. It's been appalling. It's been ridiculous. I don't know anyone who lives on a rail line they're happy with.
And the train system obviously isn't an efficient system, because any time I travel by train, I prefer to drive, because you know, then it's much cheaper and you're in a nice car instead of on a horrible train. But any time I travel by train, it costs an absolute fortune. We're talking like to go to Scotland, which isn't, you know, it's not like I'm going to Monaco. To go to Scotland is like 200 quid at least. And then you get on the train, despite spending that much money, the train's empty. So why don't they just make it cheaper and have more people on the train?
It's massively geared towards you booking early, isn't it? It's like if you book a fortnight in advance, it's OK. If you book a month in advance, it's quite cheap. You can get a first-class ticket quite affordable. If you book on the day, it's like...
It's
absolutely...
a tax on spontaneity.
Yeah, it is. You're right. And that is a bad thing. We should be encouraging a bit of spontaneity and a sudden desire to see your homeland.
They do the opposite with
feel
planes,
some stirring.
Last-minute deals on planes, because it's going anyway and there's a spare seat, is cheap. So that should happen on trains.
It would be quite an easy thing to do, to create an app that allowed you to sell the seats that were available and to, you know, adapt. I think even Airbnb have that, possibly. I'm not sure. I mean, certainly they have those booking.com things for hotel rooms and stuff. And I don't know, refugees use those. Anyway, we're at the halfway point. We're far from done. Come back in a second for a wonderful women drivers, Miss Netherlands, and calories on your pint. See you in a couple of minutes.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Greg Dewhurst and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. Further heavy showers over the next few days, quite breezy as well, temperatures around average for the time of year. So we look at the bigger picture. Low pressure is in charge of our weather at the moment, bringing in those showers. Pushes just a little further east over the next few days, introducing a northwesterly flow. So quite chilly around some northwestern coasts of the UK. To end Tuesday, showers fade for a time across parts of England and Wales, but continue across Northern Ireland and Scotland. Through the night, some of these heavy at times, then pushing back into Northern England and North Wales by the end of the night. Temperatures for all in double figures, 14 or 15 Celsius as minimums in towns and cities, a little lower in the countryside. The best of the sunshine first thing will be across southeastern parts of the UK. Further north and west, it's quite cloudy. There'll be some showery rain, and this slowly pushes south and eastwards through the day. Showers turning heavy at times by the afternoon. The odd rumble of thunder is possible, particularly across Northern England, Northern Ireland and Scotland too. We could see some localised disruption. And temperatures on the cool side, 17 to 19 across the north of the UK, 20 to 23, perhaps 24 across the far southeast of England. Into Thursday, a bright start to the morning. There will be some sunny spells around too, but there's scattered showers for many, perhaps less frequent and less heavy compared to recent days. Still highs around 23 or 24.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
And welcome back to Headliners. Straight into Wednesday's mail, Steve. Yet more evidence that mine is an atypical marriage.
This is about driving.
That's right.
Would Britain's roads be safer if only women drove?
Yeah.
Not quite. Have you just insulted your missus again?
Yes.
You're having quite a good night of it tonight.
She's one of the least safe drivers you'll ever encounter, but, you know, but she drives with flair.
I'll stay away from it. So the article starts like this. It's the age-old trope that women are the more hazardous sex behind the wheel. No one's thought that for years. No one said that. We all know the data says that women are safer drivers.
Yep.
I remember hearing that when I was a child, and now I'm definitely not a child. So they've rehashed all of that. They print out all the stats of why women are safer. But they've spun it about, let's look at the numbers if only women drove, which actually means we've taken it to the hypothetical. You don't know what would happen. You can't extrapolate forward this much.
No.
Women would then have to be all of the lorry drivers. They'd be furious that they're giving us lifts all the time. That anger would probably turn them into male drivers. But right down the bottom of this massive article, which is basically an advert for some insurance place or whatever, says roughly 10% of all men convicted of driving offences are aged between 21 and 24. It must be the responsibility of men to ask themselves what they can do to improve their performance in this area. Will not be between 21 and 24.
Yeah.
And I've done it. Thanks for asking.
Like everything, like crime stats of all kinds, like all antisocial behaviour, just peaks roughly between 17 and 25, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's always like a massive amount, and once you get past that, it's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, I don't know exactly how they determine, as you say, what kind of dangerous driving goes on. I do think men drive more recklessly. I think, on the other hand, it does depend what kind of journeys you're making, doesn't it? I think probably most women's most dangerous journeys are the school run journeys, where they're being distracted.
Yeah, exactly. And like the type of driving is so important because I think men can drive safer, faster.
Yeah.
So
and are more drunk.
I think if you're doing if you're doing 55 and a 20, you know what I mean? It's harder to be safe. So that balances everything out.
Most men have learned how to do a handbrake turn and steer into the curve at speed, haven't they? You know, it's
Tokyo
like
drift. Yeah, we don't get any respect for that in the article.
No.
Well, I wonder why not. I wonder why they think men aren't safe drivers.
Well, this perhaps is going to square the circle. Trans gland slam now from the Times and unconventional nether region for Miss Netherlands.
So Ricky Valerie Call is the first trans woman to win Miss Netherlands. I mean, obviously it's 2023. They're not going to let a biological woman win a beauty pageant. But yeah, I don't know if you've seen the picture, but you talk about squaring a circle. Definitely squared the jaw. They didn't even get a hot one. Honestly, she looks like Freddie Mercury. She looks like she could eat an apple through a tennis racket.
She does look like Freddie Mercury, you're right.
Yeah.
She has got the kind of the prominent gnashes, yeah. I mean, I've no doubt
and some other stuff.
Subjective.
Some other prominent stuff.
Right.
But yeah, the Dutch, is it Dutch? Yeah, Dutch politician Kiezer, probably not pronounced like that, says, great for Ricky, but this is another example of how the woke gender ideology, I am who I am, and society has to go along with it, leads to a loss for women. And we're seeing women getting pushed out, in sport, beauty pageants, all these areas, but they seem to love it. So, you know for a fact, I haven't seen the footage, but I know for a fact all the other contestants would have been like, oh, well done, oh, you're so empowered, blah, blah, blah. Women love being every patriarchal system is upheld by women.
You're absolutely onto something there. And also, I suppose, a lot of feminists would say, well, these things are antediluvian, patriarchal mechanisms, for maintaining male power anyway. So
are you lecturing at a university?
Exactly. If it takes a trans woman to undermine it, then fine, let that be the thing.
The same irony is there on the other side of the argument as well. People who would have said these things shouldn't exist, all of a sudden this person wins, and they go, oh, it's an amazing, what a progressive step forward. Something with a bikini wristband is progressive.
Ableist slur news now in The Independent, Steve, and if you want to go there, all I know is they love stickers.
Rosie Jones says that she used ableist slur in Channel 4 documentary titled To Take Control is the headline. Comedian said that it was her choice, her idea. Rosie Jones, it says in the article, well, it doesn't, I've altered it slightly, known for her work on Would I Lie to You and Dave's Late Night MASH, still available on Catch Up, although my contract doesn't include repeat fees for that one. Yeah. Find the old one on the BBC I still get paid for. In July, she will host her own Channel 4 show called Rosie Jones, Am I a... Probably didn't know what to say. They've started out in the newspaper. Well, if I were learning to speak French, I'd definitely be able to say it.
The simple word is retard, right? That's the word she's talking about, isn't it? Which is not a slur, except when used with that intent. It was only introduced as sort of... It means to be delayed, right? Retarded... educational development. It's like going back a year or whatever. I mean, tardy, as you say, to be late, essentially.
Well, no, in the French.
Yeah, you can use almost any word as a slur. There's a film called Glengarry Glen Ross, in which a bunch of real estate sort of cold-calling salesmen endlessly swear at each other. And yet the most devastating put-down in the entire film is when Al Pacino calls Jack Lemmon a child. What made you think you could sell with men? I mean, it's just, you know what I mean? It's like, how do you use it? It's not a bad, it shouldn't be asterisked out.
We've seen that happen with, I mean, there's a slur for cerebral palsy, but when it first came out, the S word slur for cerebral palsy, that was used to, it was used sort of medically, and it was used with noble intentions. Then it became a slur, so then Are we
not allowed to use that now?
Not allowed to use that. So then the society, the charity shop, changed its name to Scope. So the kids are just like, you're a Scopey.
Scopey,
so
exactly.
you can't ever win.
Before Joey Deacon, right? The kid who was on, or in fact, he was a grown man, wasn't he? He was on Blue. The word that you're saying, the S word, spastic, is simply the adjective from spasm, given to having spasms. That's all that means. Again, if you use it rudely about a teammate who's missed an obvious open goal, then it's a slur, you know.
But I think the point that's being made, obviously we've not seen the documentary yet, is about how easy it is to not realise there's a lot of abuse happening. No, the people who would freely use that word online as an insult, as a slur, wouldn't send a tweet that's got the N-bomb in it.
No.
And so maybe we do
Whoa.
OK, maybe you would. Maybe you would. You're right.
It's an N-bomb. I don't know if I've heard it called the N-bomb before. It's normally just called...
Yeah, I thought I'd step it up. I don't actually mean a neutron bomb.
Yeah.
Because that'd be really bad for you.
Bomb. It's... no, I mean, listen, swearing and cursing and all that sort of stuff is obviously very context-dependent. I do defend our right up to the possible wire to mention these words when we're talking about them. I just think it's infantilising not to. But you're absolutely right, the N-word is one I wouldn't use in that context, so it definitely does have power, but it doesn't have any legitimate use. It never did have, you know, so it was always used.
Just a slur.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's slightly different. But, I mean, this is the thing. It's just an arms race, isn't it? As soon as a word gets away from a charity and into a playground, you know, by lunchtime. Anyway, good luck to Rosie. Booze news now in Wednesday's Telegraph, Leo, and it seems alcohol still doesn't carry enough warnings. Slippery when wet. That's what they should put on it.
So calorie labels for alcohol are backed by more than half of the population. YouGov have surveyed 12,000 adults and asked what the legal requirements should be to go on the label. They say calories and sugar should be printed on the packaging, units, things like that. The thing that surprised me said that nearly 3 in 5, 56%, think that alcohol should carry a pregnancy warning. I mean, it might have calories and sugar. It shouldn't contain semen.
Or it maybe contained fetuses.
Yeah.
Your gin may be pregnant.
Maybe Bailey's. I guess you could sneak some in, but no other ones.
There was a thing where medical students, or maybe zoology students, I should say, used to dare each other to have a drink from the jars that contained the specimens, you know, in the alcohol, 100% alcohol, or formaldehyde and stuff, I never actually did it. It may have been a myth. What do you think, Steve?
Well, firstly, I think as much as it's a good joke about the pregnancy thing, actually, I'd rather remind... Fecal alcohol syndrome is way worse than fat people.
Yes.
So actually...
Is that what it... I genuinely thought it was like if you drink, you might have sex and get pregnant.
Well, no, that's a fair point. You know, how many... I mean, I used to have a joke I'm proud enough of to repeat on it, to the extent that... You remember they have that thing, I'm a bit like Marmite, i.e. some people like me, some people hate me. I would say all people are, in fact, like Marmite. They're a byproduct of the brewing industry. Because an awful lot of pregnancies probably do arise when you get drunk. That is probably the serious, most important warning you can put on the bottle.
Certainly in Britain.
But fetal alcohol syndrome.
Yeah, that is far worse.
I don't know how bad it is. I mean, there's a certain kind of physiognomy that goes with it, isn't there? But is it mental R-wordation? I don't know.
I don't know. And also, you do need a lot of alcohol. This is like being an alcoholic during the early phases of pregnancy.
Right.
So it's not like, this 1 pint will do it at all. Yeah. But the calories on it, I don't see the problem, because calories also exist on Diet Cokes or Cokes, and I get, it's not ruined my life. It's very easy for people to moan about, why do I have to see the calories?
I remember Steve Tyler, was it, the lead singer of Aerosmith, and he was like about 3% body fat, was never seen without a bottle of Jack Daniels in one hand. So clearly, as long as that's where the only source of your calories, you're fine. Nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. One more section to go, and it's a good one. We've got planet-destroying tropical fish, ship-destroying orcas, and the sound of silence. See you in a couple of minutes. And welcome back to Headliners for the final section, kicking off with Wednesday's Mirror. And it sounds like a NASA Mars mission was based on a Far Side cartoon.
Oh, so NASA may have found alien life on Mars and then accidentally destroyed it, according to scientists. So the Viking lander mission touched down on Mars in the mid-1970s and landed on an alien's head and squished it. And then when the cameras came out to look around, they didn't see the alien because it was underneath. No, it
this
wasn't
is
that
literally
exciting.
the Wizard of Oz, isn't it?
Just on the 2 feet.
And then NASA went off wearing her shoes.
But yeah, they carried out a number of tests for alien life, but included introducing water into soil samples, which could have actually killed the organisms.
Water would kill them?
Apparently so, according to these scientists.
I remember, what was his name, the old drunk in the silent black and white movies?
Chaplin did some...
No, the big fellow. Don't drink water, fish.
Oh, yeah, the... crickety. He had got a joke about cricket or something.
Yeah. God, what was his name? He used to do a joke about water would kill him, and never drink water, it'll kill you.
Right.
That he would just drink gin and vodka.
Well, of course, in the old days, they brewed wheat beer for miners and factory workers because the water would kill you.
That's right, and that's obviously what's happened to these poor aliens on Mars.
But interestingly,
so they didn't tread on it or land on it, they actually poisoned it.
They poisoned it, yeah, and destroyed any evidence of it. But interestingly, just recently, they've discovered more phosphine gas in the atmosphere of Venus. And phosphine gas is generally, I think, almost always created by biological activity. So it suggests that, there could be life on Venus.
Well, as far as we know, it's only created on Earth through biological activity. But there's the question of, does another planet manage to find a way of producing it?
There's a theory, isn't there, although it's probably fairly outlandish, that Venus apparently has this extraordinary atmosphere, ridiculously hot, very dense atmosphere, things that land on it just disappear and never come back. But that might be a sort of planetary scale version of the Easter Islands, statues, where it might be the after effects of a catastrophic climate change type.
Right.
That there may have been some kind of biological activity on there a long time earlier, and we'll never know. Well, maybe one day, anyway. That's women for you, remember, Venus. Over to the Telegraph next, Steve, and the latest climate-shaming activity appears to be finding Nemo somewhat problematic.
Owning tropical fish as bad for the climate as riding a motorbike. Fortunately, I don't do either, so I can burn some plastic on the way
It's
home,
at least a shaming, certainly, isn't it?
So heating the tank, transporting the fish, pumping the water, they all use energy, therefore you've got your carbon. Their large tank can contribute up to 635 kilograms of carbon.
Wow.
You could travel 3,000 miles on a bike or 2,000 miles in a car. So that's official. Bikes and cars are more eco-friendly than tanks.
Very good.
Thank
If
you.
you have one, send it to Ukraine now. We'll go to The Guardian now, Leo, and we all knew Planet of the Apes was too obvious. This is a blue planet after all.
Yeah, so there's an orca uprising. Whales are ramming boats, but are they inspired by revenge, grief, or memory? we don't know because we don't speak whale. So this whole article is just conjecture as to why orcas are ramming boats.
They may have an emotional motivation we don't even understand.
Well, interestingly, we don't think, or people don't think that it's because they want to hurt humans, because they could. There's lots of humans just swimming around, and they could go up and eat them. So they're biting the rudder, they're rubbing up. They think it could be they like rubbing up against the fiberglass hulls because they like to scratch.
Oh, like cows do in the field on the posts. Yeah.
And interestingly, they've been ramming migrant boats as well in the Mediterranean.
Racist orcas.
Yeah. Maybe they want to be a great white. It's great white supremacy.
Yeah,
That's
they
what's
are.
happening.
Well, if I would always take an orca over a great white, I've got to say, because they hunt in packs for a start, don't they? They're extraordinary. They play keepy-uppy and things with seals. It's amazing skills they
put
have.
fish on their heads as hats. They basically mess around. So there is that. I mean, they've not listed that as an opportunity. They're just taunting us, playing with.
Steve, we have the Times next, and this will surprise precisely no jazz musicians, stand-up comedians, or new parents.
You really can hear the sound of silence. By the way, you can't. But anyway, let's get into it. The article at the start on the full version on the website mentions so much Simon and Garfunkel that I don't believe a word of the science in here. But it's the one is more illusion. If you hear a long beep, you think it lasts longer than two beeps that add up to the same.
Right, OK.
And then you can do the same with the lack of sound. So a long silence, you think it lasts longer than two shorter silences.
So is it a bit like the way that humans just get bored incredibly quickly and need movement and need change in order to register something?
And it's more like just the way you perceive it.
Yeah.
So it's not that you hear silence, you just perceive its absence.
Do you ever do that thing that people used to talk, in the old-fashioned telephones, and you pick one up halfway through the dial, and it would seem like there was nothing, but actually you were just hearing the gap between beep, 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 beep. You remember that? It's the beep, 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 beep is a 5/4 rhythm.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, we talked about that. And there's a kind of an audible illusion. Anyway, we've got to go. It's I apologise for ending on that unanswered non sequitur. The show is nearly over. Let's take another quick look at Wednesday's front pages. We have The Times. Dating app user was sent abuse by BBC Star. The Guardian, no extra cash pay in the public sector, warns Hunt. The Financial Times, Kyiv bridles an absurd delay. The Sun, BBC Star broke lockdown to meet another young stranger. The Daily Mail, Chinese spy at the heart of Parliament, and the Daily Star, Klingon Star Trek-style spaceship could fly to Mars in just 30 days. Can't believe we didn't cover that, but maybe tomorrow. That's all we have time for. Thank you to my guests, Leo Kearse and Steve N. Allen. We're back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Josh Howie, trying to control Lewis Schaefer and Bruce Devlin. That sounds like a right old party. If you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Otherwise, it's been a pleasure. I've been Simon Evans. Good night.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Greg Dewhurst and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. Further heavy showers over the next few days, quite breezy as well, temperatures around average for the time of year. So we look at the bigger picture. Low pressure is in charge of our weather at the moment, bringing in those showers. Pushes just a little further east over the next few days, introducing a northwesterly flow. So quite chilly around some northwestern coasts of the UK. To end Tuesday, showers fade for a time across parts of England and Wales, but continue across Northern Ireland and Scotland. Through the night, some of these heavy at times, then pushing back into Northern England and North Wales by the end of the night. Temperatures for all in double figures, 14 or 15 Celsius as minimums in towns and cities, a little lower in the countryside. The best of the sunshine first thing will be across southeastern parts of the UK. Further north and west, it's quite cloudy. There'll be some showery rain, and this slowly pushes south and eastwards through the day. Showers turning heavy at times by the afternoon. The odd rumble of thunder is possible, particularly across Northern England, Northern Ireland and Scotland too. We could see some localised disruption, and temperatures on the cool side, 17 to 19 across the north of the UK, 20 to 23, perhaps 24 across the far southeast of England. Into Thursday, a bright start to the morning. There will be some sunny spells around too, but there's scattered showers for many, perhaps less frequent and less heavy compared to recent days. Still highs around 23 or 24.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.